Okay, so there's a lot of excitement surrounding these new M1 MacBooks from Apple, and it's for good reason. These computers are fantastic, and I'm excited to share in today's review on why I believe the M1 MacBook Air is the best computer you can buy for your money going into 2021. So the most important thing that goes into a laptop purchase is making sure that that laptop can accomplish everything that we need it to do as a buyer. The conclusion that I've come to is that the M1 MacBook Air is able to do just about anything you want it to do and do those tasks very well. And that's thanks to Apple's new M1 processing chip that's kind of just powering all of these computers. To start, if you're a casual user, so you're somebody that just wants a laptop to browse the internet, to watch Netflix and other streaming services, to browse social media, this laptop crushes those tasks. It can do those incredibly fast and efficiently, and you can do it for a very long time thanks to its amazing battery, which we'll get into later in the video. For all of my students out there, you'll be happy to know that the MacBook Air is an incredible purchase for school and for studying. One of the no-brainer things that you'll be doing as a student is typing a lot. And thankfully, typing on the MacBook Air is an incredible experience. It's smooth, it's responsive, and you can get a ton of work done in applications like Microsoft Word, Google Docs, or for me, I personally use Notion for all of my note-taking and script making for these videos that you guys are watching. One last thing that I do want to mention about the keyboard is that it is backlit, so it's incredibly nice to use at night. And I'm actually going to run a keyboard test so you can kind of hear what it sounds like to type on the MacBook Air. For people who have like heavier use cases for their laptop, like photo editing or video editing, that's kind of the camp that I fall in, and I've had an amazing experience using the MacBook Air. I actually sold my custom built PC that actually powered and made all of the videos for this channel, and I've downsized to just the MacBook Air laptop. My experience in Adobe Photoshop and Final Cut Pro on the laptop has just been so great that I haven't missed my Windows PC, and I feel safe recommending the MacBook Air for like content creation and whatnot because all my videos are shot in 4K and I've had no issues creating and editing them on this computer. The last category of people that I want to focus on are gamers. If you're looking to play video games on the MacBook Air, I'm sorry, as much as I love this laptop, I think you should still pass on it for playing video games. I think you're much better off getting a Windows-based machine or getting a game console like the PlayStation 5 to satisfy your gaming needs. Moving on from performance, a laptop can only be as useful as it is powered on. Like a dead laptop is a quite useless laptop and an unproductive laptop. So battery life is incredibly important, I think, in the user experience, and thankfully, Apple did a great job. The MacBook Air has an incredible battery life. From my experience of like continuous usage, I get around 8 to 10 hours of battery life of like photo editing, video editing, watching 4K Netflix, YouTube. So I'm definitely a heavy user and I still get really good battery life. If you're more of a casual user or most of the apps that you use are either within the web browser or like Microsoft Word or note-taking apps or social media, you'll probably get even longer battery life than me, like probably 10 plus hours on a single charge. I know Apple actually has quoted that watching a continuous HD video, the laptop can go up to 18 hours on a single charge. So that kind of gives you some perspective of just how long you can stretch this battery. So another topic about this laptop that I really wanted to focus on that I think is a huge dilemma with a lot of people is how much storage should they get on their MacBook Air purchase? I think for most people, the base storage at 256 gigabytes is the right choice. I think generally that's enough storage to cover all of your application needs. For me personally, I only have 256 gigabytes of like storage on my MacBook Air, and that has been plenty for me. I have all the apps that I need installed, and I have plenty of room to install more apps if my needs expand on this computer. I can definitely recognize that a ton of us have a lot of videos and photos that we shoot on our phone that we want to store somewhere. And like kind of the most common place people first think of is their laptop, but I don't think like a laptop is really the best place to store these big files. I'd actually look at cloud services such as iCloud or Google Drive, Dropbox or Google Photos, I think you're much better off storing all of that media in the cloud. That way you can access all of that from a variety of different devices and not just your MacBook Air. One last thing that I'll say about storage is that I definitely recognize that there's a ton of people where 256 gigabytes of internal memory simply is not enough to, let's say, complete a project. Like for me, my videos can easily get up to 100 gigabytes plus of video files, and I don't really have enough space locally within the computer to actually output and create the project file. So we have two options. We can upgrade the storage through Apple and pay $226 Canadian to increase the storage by 256 gigabytes, or we can go on Amazon and just pick up an external SSD from Samsung, for example. You can get a 500 gigabyte SSD for about $129 Canadian, and that's a much better deal, and you can just connect it via USB-C. For me personally, that's actually what I did. I have an external SSD from Samsung that has just been incredibly fast and useful and way cheaper to get more storage if I actually do need it versus paying Apple to increase the storage for me. Let's take a moment now to talk about the design of this laptop. I think we can all agree that Apple knows how to design beautiful hardware, and it's no exception with the MacBook Air. If you're the kind of person who generally needs to be in front of your computer and like just stare at the screen for a very long time, you'll be happy to know that Apple has an amazing display on the MacBook Air that they tout as their Retina display. All you need to know about the Retina display is that the colors are gorgeous, the text on the screen are very sharp and clear to read, and the screen itself actually adapts to the environment you're in. So it can go from warm colors or cooler colors depending on the lighting situation, and it's supposed to help with eye strain, especially when you use your laptop for a very long time. And I can attest that that actually does work, and I'm very appreciative that that's actually built into this display because I sit in front of my computer for hours on end doing work. The last thing that I'll say about design is that this laptop is not 100% durable. It is prone to scratches and spots and marks, and I've done like all of those things to my MacBook Air. Like on my MacBook, I actually scratched it with my keys by mistake. I just threw my laptop into the bag and it made these little etch marks on the side that are just gonna be there forever. So I totally recommend you get a case on your laptop. The one that I use is a leather case from a company called Andar. They actually sent that to me, but you guys can just find a case on Amazon. Just make sure you cover this thing up because it will scratch eventually if you don't. Now I want to talk more about the software, the macOS operating system. And I think for a lot of people, the bulk of your long-term experience buying this device and what you're gonna remember is the macOS specific features and how it integrates so well with the Apple ecosystem. I am a new Mac OS user. I just switched over to Mac back in January of this year. I just bought an iPhone November of last year. I got an Apple Watch. I bought some AirPods. So I'm like brand new into the Apple ecosystem, but I'm very excited to be in it because the level of integration and how all these devices talk to each other is just fantastic. To start, I love the fact that I can get text messages that come into my iPhone right on my laptop. I just think that it's such a tiny thing, but it just changes the entire experience, for me at least, when I use my MacBook. It generally means that when I'm at home, I don't need to grab my phone to really do anything. It can just sit on the charger or on my bedside table, and I can respond to all my friends on my computer, and a lot faster too, because you can type faster on a keyboard than you can on a touchscreen, in my opinion, and it's better productivity-wise. Like, when I'm doing work, I can quickly respond to messages and then get back to focusing on doing work versus grabbing my phone, responding to messages, and then getting distracted with, I don't know, an Instagram notification or a new YouTube video from my favorite creator, and then long gone is my productivity, and now I'm just completely procrastinating and distracted. For people who own the Apple Watch like myself, you can actually unlock the MacBook Air with your watch, so you don't have to type your computer password, you don't have to use Touch ID, so I find that to be pretty useful sometimes. For people who own AirPod Pros like myself, the integration with that device and the MacBook Air and the iPhone has been incredibly useful. So I could be listening to something on my MacBook Air with my AirPods Pros in my ears, and then grab my iPhone and then start playing music on my iPhone, and then the AirPods will very seamlessly on their own switch over from the MacBook Air to the iPhone without me needing to do anything. And I found that to be a nice level of integration as well. This next thing is a little bit more niche. It's for anybody who owns an Apple TV 4K like myself. You can actually screen mirror your MacBook Air to the Apple TV 4K on your beautiful big 4K TV display, and you can use it as a second screen. I personally love doing this, and it's an incredibly fast way to launch your MacBook Air onto the TV without any wires or cables. So all the way up until this point of the video, the review has been incredibly positive. It doesn't mean that I think this is the ultimate perfect laptop. It still has its shortcomings and downsides, and that's what we're gonna kind of dive into very quickly. For starters, I wish there was just one more USB-C port on the MacBook. I find it frustrating that there's only two. I really wish Apple put Face ID on the laptop because that would have been incredibly useful. We're so used to doing that on our iPhones and iPads. It would have been nice to have it on the laptop, or at least that's just my opinion. Something very odd that has been happening during my experience with this laptop is that it sometimes randomly shuts down and it restarts on its own. This has only happened maybe 2 or 3 times in the past, I think 3.5, 4 months that I've owned this computer. But something just to point out, I don't know why it did it, but it has crashed on me a few times. I've also had Bluetooth issues as well, and I know this is actually a common problem across all of the M1 Macs, that people have been experiencing Bluetooth problems. For me personally, my Bluetooth issues arise when I'm using an external mouse with this laptop when I want to work from a desk. I find that the connection with my mouse, Bluetooth connected to the MacBook Air, it just isn't that smooth. Like when I'm using the mouse to navigate with it on the MacBook Air, it's never as smooth as just using the trackpad. And I really attest that to the fact that there's just something going on with the latency or the connection between my mouse and the laptop itself. And I know Apple is actually aware of this, and they have been releasing patches to improve this, and it has gotten a little bit better, but it still is an issue that you should be aware of. That's kind of the bulk of my issues. Are these deal breakers? Definitely not. Like I'd say 97, 98% of the time, the laptop works just as intended, and I'm incredibly happy with this purchase, and I would never turn back or return it. But the 2% of the time that I am dealing with some of these issues, it is incredibly frustrating, but it is a new transition for Apple, so I'm a bit more forgiving with it. And generally, I've been incredibly happy with my experience with the MacBook Air. So overall, about 2 months later from my original review with the MacBook Air, I can confidently say that my conclusion hasn't changed. I think the MacBook Air is pretty much the perfect laptop for just about anybody. Students, businessmen, casual users, creators like myself. You can find a need and get it done on the MacBook Air. And I think for most people, the MacBook Pro just isn't really a good buy. From my own personal research and reviewing the test results and benchmarks of between the MacBook Pro and the MacBook Air, I just generally think it's not worth the extra upsell for the MacBook Pro just to get a fan. I don't think most people would benefit from having a fan built into their computer. So there you have it. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Make sure to drop a like if you guys did enjoy the video. Subscribe if you are brand new to the channel. More MacBook related videos are to come in the future. And please comment down below hashtag M1 MacBook Air if you did finish the video. But I'll catch all of you guys in the next one. Peace.